Did you know that over 70 million people in the United States alone suffer from sleep disorders? It's a silent epidemic that impacts our health, productivity, and emotional well-being. Sleep deprivation doesn't just leave you tired, it chips away at your life, your mood, your relationships. I know this because I lived it. Night after night, I faced the crushing loneliness of sleeplessness, and day after day, I fought to function while feeling hollow inside. For me, sleep wasn't just elusive. It was an enemy. It started slowly, like a dripping faucet in the background. At first, I chalked it up to stress, a few rough nights here and there. But before long, those restless nights turned into a never-ending cycle of exhaustion. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the hours slip away. Each night felt like a battle I was destined to lose, my mind racing with worry, unable to switch off. Every failed attempt to sleep tightened the grip of anxiety on me, suffocating any hope I had of rest. The mornings were the worst. I would drag myself out of bed, feeling like I was made of lead. My body ached, my head throbbed, and my eyes burned with exhaustion. Coffee became my lifeline, but no amount of caffeine could shake the fog that settled over me. Work became a blur. Conversations felt like obstacles. Even the simplest tasks, like remembering where I left my keys, felt monumental. It wasn't just physical. Sleep deprivation seeps into your soul. I became short-tempered with loved ones. I pulled away from friends because I didn't have the energy to fake a smile. Everything felt muted, like I was trapped in a glass box, watching the world go on without me. One night, after another string of sleepless nights, I broke down. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the clock as it ticked past 3 a.m. My body was exhausted, but my mind wouldn't stop. The anxiety spiraled. I felt like I was drowning, suffocating in my own thoughts. Tears streamed down my face, and I couldn't even explain why. It felt like I was losing my grip on reality, sinking into a darkness I couldn't escape. I started blaming myself. Was I not trying hard enough? Why couldn't I do something as simple as sleep? I convinced myself I was weak. That there was something wrong with me. Each sleepless night became a confirmation of my worst fears, that I was broken. My health began to deteriorate. I gained weight, my skin became dull, and I was constantly sick. My immune system was shot, and even a common cold would knock me down for weeks. My doctor told me I was on the verge of burnout, and if I didn't find a way to sleep, I could face long-term consequences: heart disease, diabetes, depression. The fear of permanent damage loomed over me, but the helplessness of being trapped in this cycle of exhaustion was even worse. There was a moment, one I'll never forget, that finally made me realize how much I had lost to sleeplessness. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was sitting at a family gathering, surrounded by people I love. But instead of enjoying their company, I was struggling to keep my eyes open. I was there, but not really. I missed out on laughter, on joy, on life. I watched the world happen around me, and I wasn't a part of it. I broke down later that day, realizing how much of my life I had lost to sleep deprivation. I wasn't living, I was surviving. And barely at that. That night, I made a promise. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I swore I would take back control of my life. I couldn't let sleeplessness steal any more from me. The transformation wasn't overnight, and it wasn't easy. But the solutions, the methods, the changes that saved me, they exist. And I want to share them with you.
Chasing shadows in the twilight. Winds of change, they softly call. Painted portraits on the wall. Memories of yesteryears.
If you're reading this, know that you are not alone. I know how it feels to be trapped in the dark, to feel like sleep is a distant dream you'll never grasp. I've felt the frustration, the helplessness, the overwhelming sadness. But I'm here to tell you, there is hope. There is a way out. You don't have to live in the fog anymore. You don't have to be a prisoner to sleepless nights. Stay with me because the answers are waiting. And if I could overcome it, so can you. The journey isn't over, but the transformation you need is just ahead. The lingering shadows of sleeplessness. Even after I made that promise to myself, the struggle didn't disappear. Sleep or the lack of it still haunted me. I would go to bed hopeful, only to feel that crushing disappointment when I couldn't drift off. The nights were still long, dark, and lonely. Each passing hour felt like a cruel reminder of my failure. I became scared of the night, dreading the silence and the ticking clock. Some nights I would lie there in the dark, tears streaming down my face, my chest tight with anxiety. I would beg for sleep, whispering into the darkness, "Please, just let me rest." I hated who I was becoming. My patience wore thin, my energy depleted, my spirit fragile. I couldn't recognize the person staring back at me in the mirror, pale skin, hollow eyes, a person who was barely holding it together. The emotional toll on relationships. It wasn't just my health that suffered. My relationships were crumbling too. I grew distant from the people I loved. Friends stopped calling because I always canceled plans. Family gatherings felt like an obligation I could barely fulfill. I had nothing left to give, not even to the people who mattered most. One night, I snapped at someone I loved, a sharp, bitter remark that cut deep. Their face crumpled and the look of hurt in their eyes shattered me. I wanted to apologize, to explain that it wasn't them, that I was just so tired, so unbelievably tired. But the damage was done, and I could feel the distance growing between us. Sleep deprivation wasn't just stealing my health, it was robbing me of the people I loved. There were moments when I felt like giving up. The world around me seemed to be moving on, while I was stuck in place, drowning in exhaustion. I watched others effortlessly glide through their days, full of energy and joy, while I stumbled through mine, clinging to any shred of energy I could find. I felt like a failure, like I was broken beyond repair. I tried everything. I rearranged my room, changed my diet, forced myself to exercise despite the exhaustion. Nothing worked. The harder I tried, the worse it seemed to get. I became obsessed with sleep, my entire life revolving around the desperate need for it. And every time I failed, the weight of that failure crushed me a little more. The real breaking point came during a work meeting. I was supposed to give a presentation, something I had spent weeks preparing for. But as I stood in front of the room, the words on the page blurred together. My mind went blank. My hands shook. My voice cracked. I couldn't remember what I was supposed to say. I mumbled through it, barely coherent, and when it was over, I excused myself, locked myself in the bathroom, and sobbed. I wasn't just tired. I was broken. And I felt like I would never be whole again. But somewhere in the darkest moments, I found a small spark of hope. It wasn't big. It wasn't loud. It was a quiet voice inside me that whispered, "You are not alone." And as much as I wanted to give up, I clung to that voice. I refused to believe that this was how my life would always be. I started to understand that I wasn't the only one suffering like this. Sleep deprivation affects millions of people. It's isolating, but it's also more common than we think. And just knowing that gave me a tiny bit of comfort. If others had found a way out, maybe I could too. If you're still watching this, it's because you felt it too. You felt the heavy weight of exhaustion, the aching loneliness of sleepless nights. You fought the same battle I fought. And I know how desperately you want to break free. I won't tell you it's easy. I won't tell you it's quick. But I will tell you that it's possible. There is a way out. There is a path to restful nights and energized days. And I promise you, you don't have to do this alone. I found a way to reclaim my life. The answers, the tools, the steps that transformed my sleepless nights into peaceful rest, they exist. And they're waiting for you, too. For now, just hold on to hope. Because if I can come back from the depths of sleeplessness, so can you. The solution is out there. And it's closer than you think. Stay with me. The transformation you've been longing for is just ahead. As the days blurred together, I started to feel like I was living in a fog. Everything around me seemed distant, as if I were watching my own life from behind a glass wall. I became numb to the world, numb to joy, numb to pain, numb to everything. I wasn't living anymore. I was just existing. Work became a daily nightmare. I made mistakes, missed deadlines, and lost focus during meetings. My coworkers' concerned glances only made the shame worse. I could hear the whispers, feel the judgment, but I was too exhausted to care. I stopped trying to explain. What could I say? I'm sorry, I just can't sleep. It sounded so small compared to the mountain of problems I was facing. The worst part wasn't the exhaustion itself. It was the anxiety that wrapped around it like a vice. Every night, as soon as I climbed into bed, my mind would spiral. Thoughts raced in circles. Will I fall asleep tonight? Will tomorrow be another wasted day? What if I can never fix this? The more I worried about sleep, the more impossible it became. The quiet darkness of the room was supposed to be comforting, but it felt suffocating. I would toss and turn, my heart pounding, my mind refusing to quiet. I became terrified of bedtime, dreading the moment when I'd have to face another sleepless night. The anxiety fed the insomnia, and the insomnia fed the anxiety. It was a vicious, unrelenting cycle that I couldn't escape. Missing out on life. There were so many things I missed out on. I missed birthdays, holidays, simple moments with loved ones. Invitations to events would come, and I would decline because I knew I wouldn't have the energy. Even when I forced myself to go, I was never really present. I would sit in the corner, trying to hide how tired I was, barely able to keep my eyes open. I remember missing a dear friend's wedding. I had been looking forward to it for months, but the night before, I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. When morning came, I couldn't stand, couldn't move, couldn't fake it anymore. I stayed home, too exhausted to even cry, knowing I had let someone down. It felt like sleep had stolen another precious moment from me. Feeling trapped and helpless. I tried to explain how I felt to those around me, but unless you've been through it, it's hard to understand. People would offer well-meaning advice, just relax. Have you tried herbal tea? Maybe you're overthinking it. Each suggestion felt like a slap, a reminder of how misunderstood I was. They didn't see the depths of my struggle, the endless nights I spent battling my own mind. I felt trapped, like a prisoner in my own body. The helplessness was crushing. I wanted to scream, to cry out for help, but I didn't know what to say anymore. All I wanted was to sleep, to rest, to feel normal again. And no matter how hard I tried, it seemed like I never would. But even in the darkest moments, something inside me refused to let go. A small, fragile hope remained, a belief that there had to be a way out. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I clung to that hope, even when everything else felt impossible. I want you to know that if you're struggling with sleeplessness, you're not alone. I've been where you are. I've felt the hopelessness, the frustration, the overwhelming exhaustion. But I'm here now, and I want to tell you that change is possible. The journey isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. Stay with me, because what you need to transform your life is closer than you think. Hold on. Restful nights and energized days are waiting for you. After months of feeling trapped in the endless cycle of sleepless nights, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. The exhaustion, the anxiety, the missed opportunities, I knew something had to change. One night, after another failed attempt to sleep, I sat up in bed, feeling completely defeated. But something inside me shifted. It was a quiet determination, a realization that I had more control over my life than I thought. I wasn't powerless, and I had to believe that I could take steps to reclaim my rest. I didn't know where to begin, but I knew the first step was recognizing that sleep wasn't something I could force. Instead, I needed to build an environment and routine that encouraged rest. I told myself it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to try anything. That night marked the beginning of my journey toward healing. One of the first things I did was look around my bedroom and realize it wasn't a place designed for rest. I had always heard that your bedroom should be a sanctuary, but mine was far from it. Piles of laundry cluttered the space, my desk with unfinished work loomed over me, and the soft glow of my phone was a constant distraction. I decided to transform my room into a space dedicated solely to sleep. I removed anything that reminded me of work or stress. I cleared the clutter and made sure the room felt calm and inviting. I invested in blackout curtains to block out the street lights, and I removed all electronics, especially my phone, from the room. These changes seemed small at first, but they laid the foundation for the restful space I desperately needed. Establishing a consistent routine. I realized that one of the reasons I couldn't sleep was that my body had no idea when it was supposed to. I had been going to bed at random times, sometimes early, sometimes late, and it threw my body's natural rhythm into chaos. I decided to set a strict sleep schedule. Every night, I went to bed at the same time, and every morning, I woke up at the same time, even on weekends. At first it felt strange, and there were nights when I still struggled to fall asleep, but I stayed consistent. Over time, my body began to recognize the pattern. My internal clock started to reset, and it became easier to wind down at night and wake up feeling more refreshed. Mindful relaxation techniques. One of the hardest parts about my insomnia was the racing thoughts that would flood my mind the moment I laid down. To combat this, I turned to mindful relaxation techniques. Every night, before bed, I practiced deep breathing exercises. I would sit quietly, focus on my breath, and let go of the stress from the day. I also experimented with progressive muscle relaxation, where I would tense and release each muscle group in my body, starting from my toes and moving up to my head. These techniques didn't work overnight, but they helped calm my mind and prepare my body for sleep. I started to notice that I felt more at peace when I laid down, and my anxiety around bedtime began to fade. I never realized how much my daytime habits affected my sleep until I took a closer look at what I was eating and how I was moving. I cut back on caffeine, especially in the afternoons, and started paying attention to the foods I was eating in the evening. Heavy, greasy meals made it harder to sleep, so I opted for lighter, more nourishing options instead. I also began incorporating gentle exercise into my daily routine. I wasn't looking for anything intense, just a short walk in the evening or some light stretching before bed. These small changes made a huge difference. They helped release the built-up tension in my body and signaled to my brain that it was time to start winding down. It's important to acknowledge that I didn't go through this journey alone. I sought support from those around me, opening up to friends and loved ones about my struggle. Their encouragement and understanding gave me the strength to keep going, even on the nights when I felt like giving up. I also learned to be patient with myself. There were setbacks and not every night was perfect. But I reminded myself that healing takes time, and each small step forward was progress. I celebrated the little victories, like falling asleep without waking up in the middle of the night, or feeling a little more energized during the day. The true turning point in my journey came when I discovered the book The Sleep Sanctuary, Design Your Sleep Routine for Restful Nights and Energized Days. This book gave me the guidance I was searching for. It provided practical, science-backed strategies that I hadn't considered before, and it opened my eyes to the importance of a holistic approach to sleep. Every chapter offered insights that resonated deeply with my experience, and the step-by-step guidance helped me refine my routine and finally overcome the grip of insomnia. The methods outlined in the book were simple yet powerful, and they transformed the way I approached sleep. If you're tired of feeling exhausted and ready to reclaim your nights, I encourage you to grab a copy of The Sleep Sanctuary. It's available as a digital download at libraryffy.com, with the link in the description. This book helped me find the restful nights and energized days I thought I'd lost forever, and I believe it can help you too. Your journey to peaceful sleep starts here. Once I fully committed to the guidance in the sleep sanctuary, the change was undeniable. My once chaotic and restless nights transformed into peaceful, restorative sleep. I woke up feeling lighter, not just physically but emotionally too. The fog that had clouded my mind for months began to lift, and for the first time, in what felt like forever, I experienced clarity. My energy returned, and with it, my zest for life. The first morning I woke up without feeling exhausted, I cried, not out of sadness, but from sheer relief. It was like meeting an old friend I hadn't seen in years. I had forgotten what it felt like to feel well rested, to open my eyes and actually feel ready to take on the day. It wasn't just sleep that improved, my entire life shifted. With restful sleep came a renewed sense of purpose. The things that once felt overwhelming, work, relationships, even simple daily tasks, became manageable again. I could focus at work, meet deadlines, and contribute in ways I hadn't been able to before. My coworkers noticed the change, and so did I. I wasn't the person dragging through the day anymore. I was present, engaged, and full of life. Outside of work, I found myself reconnecting with loved ones. I went to gatherings, celebrated milestones, and spent quality time with people who mattered most. I finally attended events I would have once skipped because I was too exhausted. One evening, while sitting with friends and laughing over dinner, I realized that I was no longer a bystander in my own life, I was living it. The ripple effect of restful nights. The effects of a good night's sleep rippled into every corner of my life. My mood improved dramatically. I was no longer irritable or on edge. I felt calmer, more patient, and able to handle life's challenges without falling apart. My relationships deepened because I could show up fully for the people I cared about. I also noticed my physical health improving. The constant aches and fatigue that had plagued me disappeared. My immune system felt stronger, and I stopped getting sick as often. I had the energy to exercise more regularly, which in turn boosted my overall well-being even further. Sleep wasn't just fixing one part of my life, it was transforming everything. Empowering others. As my transformation became more apparent, people around me began to ask what had changed. They wanted to know how I had gone from being exhausted and defeated to energized and thriving. I was eager to share my story because I knew there were others struggling just like I had been. I told them about the steps I had taken, how I had redesigned my sleep environment, created a consistent routine, and practiced mindfulness. I explained how I had to be patient and kind to myself through the process. But most importantly, I told them that there was a resource that had guided me through it all, a book that provided the tools I needed when I felt lost. The Sleep Sanctuary, a lifeline to better sleep. That book, The Sleep Sanctuary, Design Your Sleep Routine for Restful Nights and Energized Days, changed my life in ways I never thought possible. It was more than just a guide, it was a lifeline. Each chapter was filled with insights and practical advice that were easy to implement, yet profoundly effective. I'm sharing this because I know what it feels like to be trapped in a cycle of sleeplessness and exhaustion. But I also know that there's hope. If you're ready to break free from the grip of insomnia and reclaim your life, I urge you to explore the Sleep Sanctuary. You can get a digital copy at libriffy.com, with the link provided in the description. This book helped me find peace and vitality again, and I believe it can do the same for you. Don't wait any longer, your journey to restful nights and energized days is waiting. Grab your copy today and take the first step toward transforming your life.